$90 billion. That is how much the Florida State Legislature has decided to give Governor Ron DeSantis for this next fiscal year. In return, the governor signed 200 of their bills into law, and while some of them went into effect the moment the governor's pen left the paper, others go into effect Monday, July 1st, and we're taking a closer look at a few of those. You know, this first one we've been talking about for weeks. Texting and driving will become a primary offense behind the wheel, meaning officers can now pull you over and give you a ticket for it without stopping you first for another reason. Now, for the first few months, officers will just let you off with a warning, but starting this fall, each offense will end in a fine as well as points on your license. And since you'll no longer be texting and driving behind the wheel, right? You'll have enough time to notice that some of the cars next to you may not actually have a driver in them. Self-driving cars can now be developed here in the Sunshine State and used on the Florida Turnpike. And a new funding program has been set up to help the state deal with the red tide that has been hitting our shorelines. For the next 6 years, the legislature will set aside $30 million to help with cleanup from the algae bloom and help prevent another red tide outbreak. And there are new requirements for teacher certification, but not in the way you'd expect. The testing standards for teachers is being lowered. Those tests were changed back in 2015 to make it tougher, but that actually resulted in an increase in failure rate of about 30%. And privacy laws have been extended for people who work alongside police officers. Civilians, like office workers, will no longer have their personal addresses listed on public records similar to their deputized colleagues. And you know, it's been a hot topic on the national scale, and now the state is cracking down on so-called sanctuary cities. Local governments are now prohibited from having sanctuary policies for undocumented immigrants, forcing them to comply with federal immigration requests and detainers. Now, while the law officially goes into effect tomorrow on Monday, enforcement won't begin until this upcoming October. And college education is getting a bit of a tune-up. Requirements for the state's Bright Future scholarships are getting a bit tougher. In order to qualify for 100% coverage at a state school, students now need to score a 1330 on the SAT instead of a 1290, and to qualify for the 75% funding, they have to score a 1200. That is up from 1170. And hey, vaping will no longer be allowed in indoor workplaces. That brings the e-cig practice into line with a recent constitutional amendment that was passed by state voters in recent years. And firefighters who are battling cancer will now have access to a number of new benefits to help with their care and new ways to help them pay for it. Family members of firefighters who have passed away from cancer will also have access to new programs as well. And that last law was stuck in the legislature for a number of sessions, but finally passed just days after a series of special reports by our own Laura Rodriguez. If you'd like to see any of her reporting, they're all online. Just go on to NBC6.com and search firefighter benefits.